What's going on, everybody? It's Bryan Tann here, and I'm joined by Salidas, and this is another edition of Tann Talks. Impromptu, mind you. This literally just sort of popped in my head yesterday, I think it was.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just go to Katie. I'm like, Katie, you want to do a Tann Talks on? Like, yeah, sure. I'm like, all right, so thanks everyone for joining us, especially sort of last minute. I'm of course Bryan Tann, one half of the Plotaholics podcast, and with me as always is ceremonial fourth Plotaholic herself, Katie Salidas.
Hiya.
And so decided to do this live as well because I feel bad every time we do a Tann Talks, and then Shane Wilson, the other half of the Plotaholics, takes up the editorial aspect of it. So I figure, you know what? Let's just save Shane the headache of editing my word salad and just go live. Why not? Like, what could it possibly hurt?
That's very honorable of you because there's a lot to edit.
Yeah. Shane, you want to talk about a guy who does not get enough. He does not get enough recognition for what he does. I try to recognize him as much as humanly possible, but he does so much behind the scenes when it comes to all the editing, the thumbnails, all of that stuff. So yeah, it was like let's save Shane a little bit of a headache and a hassle for a change.
Oh, that's good man, because that is that's a hellish job.
Yeah, and I tell you what, having to edit me when I talk, I definitely wouldn't want to do it. So, so Katie, I wanted to talk a bit about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power today. Um, Seems like a very, very divisive series.
Oh, yes.
I know that personally, when it first came out, I had zero interest in it. People have been talking about it because it got announced during COVID. Like when the world was shut down, and people were giving their 2 cents about it. Some people anxious, some people, especially when the budget for the series was released. I mean, the budget for this thing was massive.
Yeah.
So when you get a massive budget for this, there's going to be massive expectations.
Oh, super high expectations, and visually, that's where they spent the budget.
Absolutely.
It
Amazon,
is gorgeous.
According to BusinessInsider.com, Amazon spent nearly $500 million to make Rings of Power. $500 million to create Rings of Power. And you're right, a lot of that went to the visual effects.
How much of that went to the writers, I wonder? Because if you want to get divisive, that's where the show gets truly divisive, is in the writing.
All right, so let's take a look at this. Now, for this, we're not gonna break it down episode by episode because there's a lot to pull apart in these episodes. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to talk a little bit about the stuff sort of broadly, and then we can look at some of the storylines of how they went, and who some of our MVPs of the series are thus far.
The first thing you got to know, though, going into this, they did not have the rights to Silmarillion. Right. They made this show off of the appendices to the Lord of the Rings and creative, fudging of details there. So don't expect it to be what Tolkien had written. This is their fan fiction.
Right.
If you want to think of it that way.
Right. It is not. Is it considered canon?
No, because the Silmarillion actually lays it all out. Okay. The appendices of the Lord of the Rings gives broad strokes of what happens, and they went from there and kind of fanficked off that.
Okay. All right. So so it's not canon. It is strictly fan fiction. Fine. Now, here's the thing. If you're going to spend money on the name Lord of the Rings, why wouldn't you just kick out whatever is extra for the Silmarillion? Like
they couldn't get the rights. They couldn't. Oh, wow. Yeah, that was the issue. They were not able to get the rights, so they had to do it their own way.
Okay. Now, a lot of people look at this. So basically, they had to do sort of what HBO had to do with Game of Thrones in the sense that books aren't finished.
We saw how well that worked.
Yeah, like people were really into the series the first like 2 seasons when they were following the books, but once they went their own way, a lot of people started throwing hammer and nails at them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm still angry, and I almost didn't watch. We're not even talking about the new series, but I almost didn't watch the new series because I was so mad at what they did.
And we are going to get to House of Dragons, y'all. Don't worry, since we are going to be making the parallels. We are Katie and I will do House of Dragons. Actually, I promised Katie. I said, all right, well, let's talk Lord of the Rings, and then I'll start watching House of Dragons.
You'll
So
like it. You'll like it.
I
They're
had to
doing good.
I had to bribe Katie to do today's show. So, all right. So, right off the bat, that's what we know right now. The Silmarillion is not involved in this. This is straight up fanfic.
And
And
keep in mind, they're truncating thousands of years of history into small bits of time for this series. So a lot of the stuff that they kind of yada yada and gloss over is
mhm,
actually thousands and thousands of years of history that they kind of just and next day.
right, and I think that's something else from a writing standpoint. There's a problem with, and I think both of us being writers, we can definitely throw some shade at that because nothing annoys me more than when you yada yada the narrative. I don't like a yada yada narrative. Um, if you need to do a time skip, that's one thing. But when you want to yada yada and just overly condense everything together, therein lies a problem I
Yeah, and I get why they did it the way they did it because they're trying to focus on a specific point in time,
have. Right,
which is still actually many thousands of years that they're focusing down, but they're trying to get you up to speed to this point in time that they want to focus on.
right,
And that poses problems because it means they have to change the way characters that are canon characters are shown. They have to
right.
recreate new characters that maybe encompass multiple characters that were previously mentioned. The biggest problem that I found that this posed, and I said it to you yesterday when we were talking about this,
Hmm.
the series visually is beautiful, and I see where they had to make changes, but the way the episodes went through them, it was like listening to my son try and tell me about a game he was playing. Just talking details that maybe aren't important, focusing on the wrong thing. And it's like, can we get to the point? Come on, get to the point. What happened? When did you fight the mob boss? Come on, let's do this.
Right.
That was how I felt watching this series. It's like, please just get to the point.
Now, I'm going to be fair. I have had a ton of issues with getting through the Lord of the Rings books. It took me a while to finish The Hobbit because it's just so much detail to go
Mm-hmm.
through. So much freaking detail. And The Lord of the Rings is even worse. So the Silmarillion, I didn't even try because I actually looked at the hardback and was just like, yeah, no. Like, that, why don't I just read it again?
Different time period. The
Yeah.
writing style is very different, and Tolkien was doing a lot of heavy lifting with his characters and his themes and creating the languages.
Yep. And I'm not anti that. And I'm not anti character building. I'm not anti world building. I'm not. It's just Tolkien's style of doing it doesn't work for me.
Fair
So
enough.
after trying to, so I after reading The Hobbit, I left Tolkien alone for a while, and then I watched Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings films. And I won't lie, I wasn't into them at first. I had to really like. Actually, I didn't watch Lord of the Rings for the first time until the extended edition came out on DVD, and then I watched it, and then I went to go see Two Towers in theaters.
Okay.
So, so with that being said, I had a really good time, and I think that it's the ignorance to the source material that made me really, really have fun with this. Because, and I get what you're saying, and I can understand now after watching it and having the benefit of foresight, I can see where a lot of these things where they're really just trying to cram so much into not just running into the episodes was relatively fine because each episode is about an hour. Okay, not a big deal. But with the amount of episodes that they're doing, that's where they really had to overly condense. Because when you look at other TV shows, like, say, look at Gilmore Girls, you never felt like, with certain episodes as exceptions, they got a lot done in a 45-minute time frame, and it never felt like the story was shirked.
See, and that's
Except for every so often. And in this, they were cramming so much in so they didn't shirk. Like, why don't just do a 12 episode or 15 episode season if you've really got to do that much?
it's not that the amount of stuff they were putting in was too much to fill a space. Their focus was wrong. Just
Okay.
as an example,
Mm-hmm.
yes, hobbits are going to be in there. But if you look across the entire series at all the Hobbit scenes, they're basically all the same scenes over and over and over again.
Right.
We're not seeing anything new. We're not really getting any new character development. They could have had 2, maybe 3 of those scenes across the whole series, and we would have still gotten the point about the hobbits. It was
Right.
unnecessary bloating that made it feel like, oh God, we're back at the hobbits again.
Yeah, that was among the most difficult parts. Oh, and I guess now is a good time to start, throwing a spoiler alert in if you haven't watched already, because yeah, well, we're gonna dissect some of this. So spoiler alert at the 12-minute mark. Um, I had a big look. All right, so let's look at the Hobbit storyline for a second, since that's a good place to start. Um, okay, I appreciated how they built this little tribe of hobbits, this nomadic hobbit tribe. I thought it was kind of cute. It was kind of nice. We like, because they're not. Are they directly hobbits, or are they an offshoot of the hobbits?
They're the
They are
descendants,
the
or
are their
the
descendants?
they're like the start of the hobbits
Okay,
before they became, Shire dwelling.
okay.
Um, yeah,
So
there's 3 branches of hobbits. We only see the Harfoots here, but yeah, so they're the nomadic precursors to the ones that we see.
okay, so we get this character building of this race. They never really interact with the big folk. They never interact with Galadriel or anyone else. It's their own little self-contained. So basically, this is 2 separate storylines, technically 3, happening at the same time, and then it ends up being 2 because the one storyline combines with the other. Actually, no, it is 3. No, I was right the first time. 3 different storylines all happening at the same time.
Yeah, they still aren't quite all together by
Right.
the
By
end
the
of
end,
it. We're still the humans,
we're
the
starting
elves,
to get
with the
there.
dwarves, and then the hobbits. But
Right.
the amount of time they spent on these hobbits, they didn't develop anything really. They just kept showing us the same things over and over again.
They pretty much, only thing they really explain to us is their nomadic nature. They go someplace one time. They're basically snow bunnies. When the weather changes in one spot, they walk to another. They go to Florida every year if they live in the Northeast.
But we didn't need like almost 20 minutes of every single episode to establish this.
Right.
So it drug it down because they're focusing on the wrong thing.
The only good part about it is when you start to when the stranger shows up. That's when it starts to get interesting, but then it kind of drags because this dude has to learn everything, and it's like,
Again,
okay,
focus.
yeah. This
So
is when I started to get annoyed. This
we
is what
see
started annoying me.
what could have been 2 scenes out of the entire series. We see him drop in, and we see Nori make friends with him.
Yeah.
And then she's leaving by the end of it. Are we going to see the hobbits again after this? No, we're going to see Nori and the
And
stranger. Those are the only 2 we need to focus on. So why did we spend so much time?
or at least give this storyline its own episode and leave it alone. Give it its own episode and leave it be.
When we get to a point where watching this series, if I saw that the hobbits were on screen, I was like, oh,
You know what?
drink or something. Yeah,
I'm
I
not
would
gonna
walk
lie.
home.
I was too. But once we get to when the 3 acolytes show up, that's when it's finally interesting. That's when it starts to get a little bit interesting, because it's like, all right, the stranger made apples grow. Nice guy. Good guy. Way to go. why do I care? And then the acolyte show up. Well, we already knew the guy was magically powerful. We already knew he was going to be a something.
We get an OP character moment, though. He goes from not being able to do shit to all of a sudden...
Then all of a sudden, he can do everything. He can talk. He's perfect. And then the acolytes show up. And it took the acolytes to do that. So, like, literally, you could have just done an episode of just the Hobbit end. Because it doesn't connect to the other storylines at all.
And did anybody believe he was Sauron the whole time? I know they tried real hard to make that...
I thought he was Gandalf.
Yeah, from the beginning, I'm like, yeah, he's Gandalf, or he's one of the wizards.
Yeah. And then when you find out exactly... Then you find... I had to do a little bit of research to figure out exactly who he was.
But we still don't know exactly who he is. I know who he is. He's just a wizard.
He's Saruman.
We don't know.
Saruman was the first one to come to Middle Earth.
No.
I thought he was.
We got the Blue Wizards.
The Blue Wizards came... All right.
And then you got Radagast the Brown. I mean, it could be any one of it. It doesn't matter. He's an Istari. That's it.
But with Sauron being the most powerful and the head of the Order, doesn't it make sense that he came first? That's just what my research showed me. My research could be completely and utterly ass backward, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Saruman was important, but it was Gandalf who ended up wearing one of the Rings of Power.
Right.
He was the one who was given the ring because he was the one to take upon himself the journey.
All right, so it's either him it's either, from the look, it's either Saruman or it's Gandalf. One of the two.
And if they're going historically, it was the Blue Wizards that showed up first.
Okay.
Which we never see them because they go east and they're never really talked about.
Right. Well, even if you start looking at the movies, like, wasn't Tom Bombadil one of the wizards too?
No,
he's just some dude. He's just some dude. But even still, the only wizards that we really meet in the films are Saruman and Sauron.
Radagast.
And when did we meet Radagast in the movie?
Radagast was the one that was in the forest.
In the movie?
Love the animals. Yeah.
I don't remember him in the movie. Maybe it's just me. I don't remember him in the movie.
It was the Hobbit movies that they had him in.
Oh, I didn't watch the Hobbit movies.
Oh, okay.
I literally only watched Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. I only watched the Lord of the Rings. I didn't watch the Hobbit. How did you really need... I mean, I don't get... The Hobbit was only like 150, 160 something pages. Why the hell did you need that many damn movies for 160 damn pages?
Look, Peter Jackson knows how to make a good, in-depth look and bring characters to life.
You want to talk about a dude dragons? That's dragging things out. Like, oh my god! You know what though? I do want to watch them. I want to find the extended edition of the Hobbit movies.
There you go. Watch those. There you go.
Because I only watch the extended editions.
No, what you need to do, because and you'll find it online. Look up the oh god, what is it called? It's like the no bullshit version of The Hobbit, where they literally cut all the scenes you don't need and jam it all together, all 3 movies. You can find it on YouTube. There's a version of it out there on YouTube, and it's really good.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So Radagast and Saruman and Gandalf are the only wizards that we see in the film series. So, all right. So it could be any one of those 3.
Yeah, and honestly, at this point, doesn't matter.
Right. Because he got yada yada and God powered. Mm-hmm. He got godded up right away.
We're truncating thousands of years into one focal point. So it doesn't matter at this point. But we knew it wasn't going to be Sauron.
Right. You know what? Because honestly, why would Sauron put himself in a situation where he knew nothing about himself, whatever? No, Sauron wouldn't do that. That's so out of... I wouldn't do that if I was Sauron.
He got himself, severely smacked down, and he did spend years wandering, but he was a shapeshifter. He would put himself into the form that was pleasing to the people around him so that he could manipulate him.
Right.
So
he wouldn't have been some big guy.
It didn't fit with what we knew of Sauron.
Right.
When this guy showed up.
Right. So if we're giving the Hobbit storyline a letter grade, I'll give it a C- to a D. It had its moments where it was kind of compelling, but it was the weakest. It was the weakest of the entire show.
The whole point of it was to throw us off the track and figuring who Sauron was. And
Right.
honestly, season 2, it did not need to even be in season 1.
Yeah, I think that what I think if I'm writing this, what I would do is have the two storylines, the one with the dwarves and Elrond, and the other one with the elves and the humans, Gladriel and the Numenor.
Mm-hmm.
And well, actually, no, technically there's four because then there's the people of the South and Home Slice.
I lump all the humans together. You get
All
the
right,
humans,
fair
you get
enough.
the elves, you get the
So
dwarves.
leave the human story and the dwarf story on its own, and then when you establish, oh snap, Sauron's here, then you get the one being that could possibly combat him.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You're absolutely right. So yeah, so I give it a C minus to a D. It was cute in certain points, and
It was
but
the
it was
nostalgia.
unnecessary. It was
It was the
unnecessary.
nostalgia. We're all,
What's up,
oh,
Anita?
yay, hobbits.
Yeah, we got hobbits. Great. Woo. Not
They would have.
necessary. Not necessary at all.
Yeah, and
So
I like the hobbits, and they are important, but I think
yeah,
they really didn't need to focus on that. If they're trying to give us what, 8 hours worth of material,
yeah.
what did they accomplish in that 8 hours? Even in the Lord of the Rings movies, they accomplished more with less time. So they really just, their focus was all over the place. It made it feel like it was slow and plotting. And again, like talking to my kid, get to the point. Tell me what happened, please. Just get to the point. That's how I felt. Visually, though, stunning. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it looked very, very nice. They did a great job on costuming. They did a great job on the building aspect of them. And, excuse me, I'm very, very happy. And I know this was a controversy in the earlier aspects of the series. If you have an issue with hobbits, dwarves, or elves being anything but white,
Yeah, that's
okay,
why,
it
why are we
was not
arguing about that?
right. Right. It was really, really nice to see some black hobbits because when I watched Lord of the Rings, my first question was, why aren't there black hobbits? Black people are short too. Black people have big feet too. Black people like to eat and smoke and drink and party too. So why aren't we hobbits also?
Right?
So it was, and that was nice. And you know what? That is one thing that I will say that both of these series, Lord of the Rings and House of Dragons, did very well. No more of the straight up whitewashing. Thank you for allowing my people like that look like me to have a place too.
Can we talk about how cool Disa was?
Mm. Let's
I
absolutely.
liked her. Now I know she didn't have the beard like dwarven women are supposed to have, but she was awesome. I
She,
loved her.
you want to talk about someone who is not? She is like the rock behind her man. Oh my
Yes,
god. Matter of fact, all the female characters are so badass. Galadriel's so badass in this. Well, we knew she was gonna be badass.
she's a little too off though, because we got to think again. How many thousands of years old is she, and she's still acting like a kid?
Well, I mean, elves age differently,
No, they
and
don't.
they,
You're telling me after a couple thousand years, you're still going to be acting like a stupid, ignorant kid that makes poor decisions? No, that's why elves had such grace. But we're not talking about the elves right now.
no,
Talking about the dwarves
yeah,
right now.
yeah. We're talking about the dwarves and Disa. I'll tell you what really got me is when she went off about Durin's father. Oh my goodness, that was so cool. Like I'm watching that, and I'm like, ooh, that's borderline treasonous, and I like it.
But she supports her husband.
Yep,
She is behind him
she tells him when he's being stupid, but she stands up for him as well. And man, I'll tell you what, she was even doing it. She was, you know, that you're on point when you're tricking Elrond and you're
100%. Yep.
messing with his head.
Yep.
Because she in every scene that she was in, man, Disa did an amazing job of just stealing the scene and making it hers.
She had presence. She really did.
Sophia Nomvet, I hope I'm saying her name right. amazing, very well done. She does not have a Wikipedia page, but she needs to, and we need to see way more of her.
Yeah, I adored her character. I liked the way that she was trying to do the right thing. She was trying to be supportive. She was trying to help her husband. She was trying to help the elves too. I mean, she had the right goals, the right mindset. She had a very good attitude. Like, she was a very good character for them to invent for this story.
Absolutely. And I think that she was also a really, really good, I don't even want to so much say a foil, but she was a great opposite for Durin, who is headstrong, but he's not always he's not always he tries to do the right things, but he does them the wrong way.
He didn't have the confidence he needed yet.
Right. A lot of blustering, and she really helped to solidify his confidence.
Which a
And
good partnership should do. You know,
absolutely.
you fill in the gaps that your partner needs so that together you guys can do anything.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the dwarves and this aspect of it. It was very, very interesting to see them come out with the whole thing with Mithril. And I mean, it was interesting, but at the same token, it's kind of like,
the fanfic
why?
twist that they gave it, just that irked me the first time I saw it, because that is not how Mithril is supposed to be represented. And yes, the dwarves did try and keep the Mithril to themselves, but that was just because they were using it. They were fashioning. I mean, the armored shirt that Frodo wore.
Right. That was Bilbo's. That was gifted to him.
Exactly. They were crafting with it. If they were crafting with it, why was it so special for them to craft the rings with it? It doesn't make sense.
It's another way to try to force the dwarves and the elves together and try to. It almost seems like they didn't want to make this all about the elves in Galadriel, so they came up with some of these side stories to sort of bring everyone else in. And I don't disagree with you. I think the fact that
Mithril isn't going to save the elves.
Right.
It
doesn't. Now, I don't mind so much them saying, well, we use Mithril to make these rings because there's going to be so special and blah, blah, blah. That, I'm like, all right, I kind of get it, because for what they're planning on doing, if these rings are supposed to be what help the races govern each other, okay, I get it. But at the same token, you don't have to do that for all of those rings. Let those rings be made by some whatever rock, connect them with the spell, and then Sauron steals some Mithril and uses it to make the ring to control everything, since Mithril is apparently supposed to be the vibranium or whatever of this universe.
The logic doesn't flow. If the Mithril is what made the Rings of Power special, why wasn't Frodo's shirt special?
Right.
Because that thing was all Mithril.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. The Rings of Power were made with infusing the magic into elements. One of the rings were gold, one of the rings were silver. Like, they're not just Mithril infused.
Right. And then, but by the way, this one is going to be gold, this one's going to be silver, this one's going to be a little bit of both.
But they were all made from the same thing.
But it's all made from the same thing. No.
Yeah. So it didn't make sense, and that irked me, because now they're yada-yadaing their own logic.
This is high-priced freaking fan fiction.
Gorgeous, though. Absolutely.
It looks beautiful. It looks beautiful, but this is high-priced fan fiction.
Although, for as beautiful as the scenes were, when the rings were shown, I was like, those are some ugly-ass rings. And you had the rings from the original movies.
Those did look kind of cheap.
Why didn't you make them look anything like the original rings?
Because they went to Piercing Pagoda.
It was like, for all the money they spent, they cheaped the hell out on those rings. They were ugly as sin.
I'm not a fashion connoisseur or anything, but I know what I like and I know what I don't like, and it's like, yo, that's just a little bit tacky, man. Yeah, it's a little bit tacky,
like Gumball Machine style.
Yeah, y'all really went to like the Halloween store and got some costume art. You really did. But I mean, it's cool. It's cool. Cool.
Well, see, and the other thing too with the whole Mithril angle, yes, the dwarves had Mithril, They had already found it. They were hoarding it because it was a special metal. And their greed in digging for it is what brought the Balrog up. Now they're switching it to make it seem like the elves forced them to do this. So the elves are now the reason why Khazad Dûm is completely barren by the time we get to Lord of the Rings. They destroyed that dwarven civilization.
Right.
Don't like the implications there.
Me neither, because now it makes, if there's a way that you try to force this to be canon, dude, Gimli would not have even shown up to Rivendell. He would not have worked with Legolas. Because the one thing about dwarves in every iteration, whether it's Tolkien or whatever, dwarves are petty as hell.
Yep.
They remember everything, and they are hot-blooded. They are mini dragons. Okay? There is no way a couple of thousand years pass and they're going to be like, oh, well, I guess it's time to forgive and forget. I'm destroying a whole society. No! The dwarves and the elves will be going to war for eternity until there are none left.
Yeah, because one society exterminated the other in order to survive.
Right.
You don't get over that.
No, you don't. So now the Gimli-Legolas relationship cannot be. Because Gimli would not have gone to... Matter of fact, none of the series would happen because with Gandalf being friends of the elves, as soon as he started talking to the dwarves, they're going to say, them or us.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this ruins it. Now, then if you're going to go this whole, well, it's Durin's fault because he dug for the elves. The elves are still in on it. Even if you blame it on one dude, the elves are still the catalyst behind it. So, yeah, that ruins it. Oh my god, this is turning into another Rise of Skywalker episode.
Sorry.
It's okay. But it looked beautiful.
That does point to a big problem with the way that the modern shows are produced. They throw a lot of money at them to make the spectacle there.
Yes,
so we see, pretty. But they're failing a lot on the logic and story and writing angles of it. So what's going on here? Why aren't we throwing more money at that?
Right.
Or are we throwing too much money at that and you've got the too many cooks spoil the meal kind of a situation?
Right. One thing that I would say is, why don't you have an executive writer that, so you have one writer who's in charge of the whole thing, the showrunner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got these other people, no more than a group of 2 or 3, write these stories, showrunner gets it, and gives the final stamp of a yay or nay. Okay, this doesn't work, because what about this continuity? What about this continuity? What about this continuity? Why? And if that is a thing, then they sort of failed on this, because bam, this is glaring. This is huge.
And it's happening across the board in all of the big budget series that we're seeing, that the writing, the plot holes are glaring. The writing seems almost childish. They're shoehorning in so many different things, trying to check every single box on whatever it is that they're trying to do. It's obvious to us. I don't know if it's obvious to everyone else, but again, they wash it over with beautiful scenery so that we're like, ooh, pretty.
Yeah, it's almost like we're being distracted by the big and the shiny, and it's like all pizzazz and no sustenance. It's kind of like eating a marshmallow.
I do like marshmallows, though.
I hate marshmallows. I used to like them, and then I decided that I hated them.
Oh.
And then when I realized that they weren't good for me, I doubly hated them. So it's like, oh my god! But it's so good on s'mores. So good on s'mores, though.
Rice Krispie treats.
Only if they're the chocolate ones. I don't like the.
I like those brown butter Rice Krispie treats from Sprouts. Oh god, those are so.
See that. See you and Sharon tap dance together very, very well. So all right. So if we're gonna give a letter grade to the dwarf storyline, that does sort of, now this is the one that sort of bleeds into the other storyline. So because of that, but I have to give it a C because of the lack of logic. Yeah, marshmallows are good roasted, so are bad shows. Anita, man, coming out with the good stuff. I love it.
That was good. That was good.
That was very good. I have to give this storyline a C because it ruins the future. The one thing that saves it is the one thing that still doesn't make sense, and that is the Mithril with the rings. It wouldn't be so bad if Frodo's. And I'm sorry, it being able to deflect everything is not enough. There had to have been more. Like, why didn't Frodo's Mithril shirt? Well, Bilbo's first, but why didn't that shirt offer us something? Why didn't it give him some relief against Sauron's influence of the ring?
Because it's
Oh,
just
but can't have that.
metal. Because it's just
It's
metal.
just a very hard, amazing metal. It is the combination of vibranium and freaking adamantium. That is it.
Yeah.
So it's a C for me. It's an
Yeah.
absolute C.
Again, we got to remember that there's a lot of fan fiction because they didn't have the core material to work with.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't want to give it a bad grade, but I really hate the future implications of what they're doing.
Right.
Should they continue to go down this storyline? So I guess I'll agree with you on maybe we'll do a C+ for them because the visuals were again good. The characters they invented were good. You know, they did do some good things there. They screwed it up for the future.
Yes. Yes, they did. All right, so let's get to the humans and the elves, and there's a bit to unpack on here because you've got Galadriel who's gone rogue, and then you've got the Southerners and the Numenor, and this was just a lot to unpack. Number one, I think the actress that plays Galadriel is amazing. Morfydd Clark, she is amazing. I mean, it's hard to fill the shoes that Kate Blanchett put out there because I think Kate Blanchett is absolutely amazing. But Morfydd Clark is really, really good. I'm a big fan of her. She did the one thing that I truly appreciated is that she was not in any way, shape, or form sexualized. I really appreciated that, and she's a badass, man. Like, it's fun. It's very fun, and I love the stunts and the sliding on the side of the horse, and like, I dug it. I really did. I dug it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Again, lots of visuals, but her attitude, her story, it doesn't make sense again. She's already a couple thousand years old by the time we're seeing her, but she acts so much younger.
She really acts like what makes people hate elves, that sort of over arrogance when it comes to humans. And she's very single-minded. It's almost like her trauma has stunted her growth almost. And it seems like that's the way they're running with it.
You can use that as an explanation, but she doesn't have the I would expect her to act differently. I would expect her, especially when she meets, you know, the Numenors, the queen there, or the queen regent there. She comes in with so much attitude when you would think she would understand how to work with royalty to manipulate them to her side through the thousands of years that she's dealt with, her own people.
Right. And if you're coming to them for help and they were freaking allies at one point, why are you going to come in real disrespectful?
Yeah, it didn't make sense. And why is she diving off the boat in the middle of the fucking ocean? She was gonna swim to shore. She wasn't anywhere close to that.
Yes, that's a lot of water.
Sense. Like, I get it, she didn't want to go, but don't have her dive off the boat when she's literally at the edge of the world.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. So, like, some of the things that they had her do, it's like, okay, I could see a kid making stupid mistakes like this, but not, you know, somebody who's like 2,000 years old by this point.
Right. No, I can understand that. I think that now Arondir was a fun character. I kind of thought it was pretty cool how they came with this forbidden love storyline. We saw a little bit of it even in Lord of the Rings, so I was kind of happy to see this. I think this storyline felt the best for me. I like that where his garrison is there because they're fulfilling whatever promise just to make sure. Blah blah blah. That's really really cool. And I really enjoyed how he's not really trusted and people are only nice to him to his face. And I enjoyed this aspect. This one felt like it was the most well done. It almost feels like this is what the series was supposed to be about. And it's like, hold on. We got to put all this other stuff in there, though.
Yeah, there's more soul to the human and elf story than I think any of the other combinations.
Right. And I think that this one feels like it got the most love and it got the most attention. And I really enjoyed how it came together. Even when the Numenor and Galadriel show up to help the people of the South fight the orcs, I love the idea of the All Father. That was cool. I did enjoy that, where he was one of the first elves that was corrupted by Morgoth to become an orc. I thought that was really well done. It made me very excited to see this.
Yeah, they humanized it. They gave you empathy for him by giving him a reason for what he's doing. He's not just mindlessly destroying the land. He's trying to create a land for his people.
Right. And at first I'm thinking, well, he's this guy is just some jagoff who is a Sauron lackey and blah blah blah. Nope, he just wants land for his people.
Yeah, and he's actually turned against Sauron.
Right. He is anti-Sauron completely because what is it? Didn't he blames Sauron for his plight?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I really enjoyed it when I saw that episode and how they created Mordor. I was like, yo!
My only beef about that was how they ended that episode with the cliffhanger. You don't stare down a blast of hot lava and survive. Like that was.
I think that definitely falls under your dismay of the Galadriel characterization. I mean, honestly, the way I looked at it as she was like, yo, I can't outrun this. I'm dead.
But then she should have been dead because you don't survive that kind of a blast. Sorry, skin's burned off. Everything's turned to ash. They got wooden buildings they're living in. Those buildings aren't going to be there anymore. Like, that was a complete logic fail right there.
Right.
They could have had it near their area that they could see, but you don't have...
But they were smack dab in the middle of all of it.
Yeah, you don't have it actually hit your people.
Well, here's what I really liked. When I first saw they were talking about how the orcs were burrowing. I was like, okay, so they're just trying this is some guerrilla warfare type shit. All right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, no, they actually use this as part of their plan. Like, that was so cool. I really enjoyed it. I thought that was so much fun. And now I'm no geologist, but if that's what really makes volcanoes go insane, wow.
So there is a rationale to adding cold water to something that is superheated. There is going to be a catalyst, a reaction when that happens. Logically, I could see them trying to use that, but the way that they kind of... What is that? What's it called when you make the machine that does unnecessary things in order to get a result?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but that's kind of what they did. Like, they went really weird way to get what they wanted done.
I don't know. Would it be? I don't know. Is it a Deus Ex Machina? I don't think so.
No.
No, it's not. It's not that.
And I can't remember what the name is.
Chekhov's gun.
It's like the same thing. That game Mousetrap. It's the same.
Right. Principle. Yeah. And what's crazy to me though is like that was probably like I get what you're saying. I think that my biggest issue with it was just as you said it, where if they're smack dab in the middle of like ground zero of this, they showed some people die, but I mean, I'm sorry, man. Some of these cats should have been worse off. Like there should have been
Goldberg machine. Thank you, Anita.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Sorry,
cool,
I just saw it pop up on there. I was like, yes, that's it.
No, that's cool. No, and so what really? But I'll tell you what. The one thing that really got on my nerves, not even got on my nerves, but it's the fact that the only person that really seems to suffer any real consequences to that explosion is the Queen Regent. She goes blind. Like, that's why she got her eyes covered. She's blind at this point. I mean, people, it's almost like cats are just walking out with scrapes and bumps and bruises because houses fell down.
Oh, but Isildur is nowhere to be found. We obviously know Isildur is not dead because, yeah, history,
Yeah.
lore. Again, it has
Unless
to follow.
his dad just becomes king, him and the Queen Regent bump some uglies, and then it's like, okay, well, now we have a kid. Let's name him Isildur as well. Ha
Yeah.
ha!
No. If
Nah,
they do that, they really, really sunk to the lowest common
that's some
denominator.
pooch screwing. That's
Yeah,
some
you
pooch
don't do that.
screwing. So,
Speaking of
but
unnecessary characters,
yeah,
they really, again with the Numenors, they didn't need to show us all those extra people because we're not spending any time there.
I think the only reason why we spent so much time in Numenor because my whole thing was, holy crap, are we in Gondor? Wait,
So Numenor is going to be destroyed. The Numenorians turn against the Valar and they are destroyed.
right.
The Numenorians are the Dunedain. They are the 300-year-old humans. They move to Middle Earth, create their kingdom. So you've got the kingdom in the north and the kingdom in the south. But they end up that's where we get Aragorn. He's the last in that line of original bloodline. Which is why he's something like 80 years old, I think, at the start of the series.
Yeah, they do mention that he's in his 80s at that point, and he's supposedly but he apparently dies relatively young, doesn't he? He's only like 100 and something when he dies, right?
I forget exactly how old he was, but yeah, he didn't live to the full 300 years, but still, getting close to 200 years old is still pretty dang long lived for a human.
Yeah, that's true.
And the Numenorians averaged about 210 years.
Yeah, so he was 210 when he died, and he spent 122 years as king. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So
Numenor is going to go. It's going to get washed away. So it almost, again, where's our focal points? If we're focusing on Middle Earth and the Sauron story, we're done with that. Why did we spend so much time there?
Right. But again, I think probably the best part of the human storyline is the Arendir and what's the
Bronwyn?
Yes, Bronwyn. Their storyline was probably, I really enjoyed their storyline. I loved how they try to just keep it friendly.
Yeah, they show love without showing physical love.
Right, and that's what I really appreciate. That's the one thing that I appreciate about these stories. I really do.
They did. We've talked about it before on just looking at characters and what makes us like them. They gave us the key element. They gave us empathy.
Right.
And
exactly.
We feel for the humans. We feel for the what is it? The Uruk-hai. We feel for their story. We know what's going on because they did develop the reasons behind what's doing, what side is doing what.
Right, exactly. And I got to give a bit of a shout out to Theo. I really did enjoy the Theo Galadriel interactions. I think that Theo kind of helped soften Galadriel's sort of impulsiveness a little bit.
She showed her maturity with him. It seemed like that he was the only one she showed maturity with.
Right. So maybe that's why I enjoyed that as much as I did. And Theo was on point. I'm glad that we didn't get that annoying little kid sensation from him. He was never super teen angst. This was a kid that he was a mama's boy. He loved his mom. He did what mommy told him to do. He was a good kid. I really get tired of these tropes of teen angst where the kids just hate their parents because that's what you're supposed to do at that age. You're just supposed to hate your parents and be a dick. Dude, I'm sorry. Any kid, no matter what they're thinking or feeling, if there is a situation like that coming on, like an entire squadron of orcs is about to wipe you off the freaking planet, you're going to get over yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to find a way to get over yourself.
Yep.
So shout out to that. Shout out to that because honestly, if he would have been like that, I probably would have been done with the series. I probably would not have continued.
And as a contrast, the elves were, I think, really poorly represented. The High King was arrogant, unlikable. I mean, every time he was on screen, it was like, okay, when is he dying? Because he doesn't represent what I expect the elves to be. They're supposed to be very smart, intelligent, one with nature. You know, he he
It's
didn't
almost
embody any of that.
he is.
Elrond was a young version of what I expect elves to be,
Yeah.
but the
Well,
High King just
I think with the High King, they made it so that he was constantly in a state of fear. I think that might be part
and
of it.
making very poor decisions about it.
Right. And
Again, thousands of years old elf should have more maturity backing their decisions, even if they're being faced with stressful environments and things.
right. Because even when Elrond kind of does what he does, it's still relatively smart.
Patient, calm, keeps
He,
his voice neutral. He doesn't antagonize. Even when he does throw little quips out to antagonize, it's done in a fun way that's
in a
meant to.
polite manner.
Yeah.
And even in Lord of the Rings, when he tries to trick Arwen to leave, it's not he lies with the truth, but
Mhm.
it's not super sneaky. It's just, look,
Wow.
I'm just trying to protect you. So I'd be remiss if we didn't discuss the glaring eyeball in the sky of this storyline. Bro, I get that Sauron is a shapeshifter. But if you are supposed to be the badass of all badasses, how did this dude have you tricked so long? How did you not maybe stop to think that maybe something wasn't what he said it was until that moment?
Well, and even when she found the scroll that supposedly listed the bloodlines of the king, and that made her realize that Halbrand wasn't what he said he was. You lie, you manipulate, you don't try and kill them and throw them in the river and disappear. That's not how Sauron would have done it.
Now, the one part that he did is that he tried to manipulate her with power, which is what he does. I like that, but then it's like, and then he goes into her mind and tries to trick her. Okay, cool. And then it's like, all right, fine. Well, I'm just going to leave you in the river.
After spending all that time with her, he should have known that wouldn't have worked. And he
Right,
would have gone with a better manipulative scheme because that's exactly what he's good at. He's
right.
smart as hell. He knows how to
He's
get what he wants.
he is always multiple steps ahead.
Exactly. So this was again, it was a childish maneuver for a character that would have had more foresight, more intelligence behind what they do. And that speaks to
Exactly.
the whole series. Like they really didn't think about that.
Right. Now, I thought that it was I liked the reveal. I thought it was cool, but at the same token, there's got to be a better way that you
And
could do that.
Sauron did trick Celeborn into making the rings.
Right. And I thought that was great and he did it very, very well. He's not pushing it. He's like, "Well, what if we did this?" Well, what if we did this?
But
Brilliant.
even in that, Celebrimbor was smarter than that. He would have had that basic understanding of metallurgy. So
Right.
they dumbed it down for everyone, but it was the right theme.
Right. And I think that becomes the biggest issue of what happens with our entertainment right now is that it's very, very dumbed down for us. We really get situations where it's almost like some of the writers don't give us the credit of having intelligence to be able to figure things out.
Yeah.
And they make it for the casual fan. But you can do things you can make something general for the casual fan and not be insulting to the people that know the lore.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and
Like, was
again,
it cool? It was cool, but it's not. It's outside of certain things.
I have to wonder if it's either they're not throwing enough money at the writing to get decent writers, or it is a too much cook situation in the kitchen where they have so many people putting their ideas in and trying to check all of these boxes that they almost have to dumb it down in order to check all the boxes because the boxes are what they care about in the end.
Right, right. So, if I'm giving a letter grade to the humans/elves, even with some of the issues that we've sort of discussed, I want to give it a solid B.
Okay.
I like the Arundel and Bronwyn storyline. I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
really well done. I think that the character Theo was very very well written. He was a very pleasant surprise in how he was portrayed. Very very likable. He took some of the edge off of Galadriel where there were weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
However, it was the Sauron reveal was very very interesting, but it was a little bit insulting how we got there.
Mm-hmm.
So I give it a solid B though, because I think that if the writing of it was, if that was written just a little bit better, it could have been an A minus, minus the Galadriel acting like a teenager, even though she's 2,000 and a half.
Right? Like that's the only thing that gets to me is like they don't really think the characters all the way through and how someone of that age would act. But they did give it heart and they did create
Yes,
empathy, which is exactly what we need to care about the characters.
right. And I think that overall, as a series, despite some of those weaknesses, I would give this series a solid B in and of itself. That B brings up the D and the C minus a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
brings, the C plus. It brings it up because well, we keep saying it and it's kind of facetious, but I mean, and it's repetitive at this point, but it looks very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some instances where you are going to forget some of the things that are slightly annoying in the writing because of how good it looks. And these characters, for the most, despite some of their weaknesses, are likable.
Yeah.
I like Poppy. I think Poppy Proudfoot is sweet. I love Nori. The Stranger is kind of interesting. Um, Sauron is what you would want out of a devil character. Very, very charming, where you almost forget he's the devil.
Exactly. And we've now set him up against the other foe so
The
he can
Uruk.
take over Mordor. So
Right.
we've set up a very interesting dynamic where it's not a, you know, the enemy of the enemy is my friend kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, the humans would be on Sauron's side,
Right. Well,
which is interesting if they play on that aspect.
and we also got that too, where like a fourth of the Southerners joined the Uruk and the Orcs. So what are we going to see from that?
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. So I think that but a lot of the problem, and we touched on this a little bit, but I think a lot of the hate that this is getting is it's one part some of the writing and some of the stuff that doesn't make sense. Absolutely, I agree. But I think that a lot of people are also using the fact that there is more inclusion as an excuse as well. They're sort of they're sort of hitching that wagon onto the train, and
Oh,
that's
there's
the
no
problem that
need
I
for
have.
that. Like, I don't get that. It doesn't
I
make any sense to me why a story that would have dragons, that would have magic, would not have creatures that look different.
Right, exactly.
Diversity is inherent in the system.
Right. I mean, and then you get a lot of these people that go, "Well, what if Black Panther had a white guy?" We're like, "No, it's different. That is two different things. Stop it. Stop it." Number one, that's a lazy argument. Number one. Number two, it's an idiot's argument. Number three, if you are going to try to pull that argument out, any discussion is now going to be nixed because you are not going to drag me into a place where your stupidity gives you the advantage. It's just not happening. Go swim in a sea of liquid rat poison. Yeah, I'm kind of grouchy today. I'm a little grouchy. So overall, like I said, I'll give the series a very very solid B. It's enjoyable, a little bit frustrating, but at the end of the day, it's fun. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
But if you're a hardcore Tolkien enthusiast, you might want to just be willing to just look at this as what it is.
Fan fiction.
Overpriced
Yeah.
fan fiction.
Look at it as fan
A
fiction
half a
and you
billion
can,
dollars worth of fan fiction.
right?
So I am going to spend the next week or so watching House of Dragons. House of Dragons is done, right?
Season finale tonight.
Okay, and that's part of the reason why I didn't watch it yet, because I don't like waiting. So I am going to start watching House of Dragons, and then our next Tann Talks is going to be House of Dragons.
Yes,
I am excited to see this because, well, I enjoyed the first 2-3 seasons of Game of Thrones. The other ones I just kind of kept going because I wanted to see boobs and death.
And they are going off of an established story,
Right.
So you're safe in the fact that it is going to follow the author's original idea.
Right. So I can't wait. I'm going to check this out. So basically what I'll do is there's 10 episodes in this series? 10,
I think
episodes?
so. I forgot how many episodes I've watched, but tonight is the finale.
The finale. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to make it a point to watch this, and maybe we'll come back to this next Sunday. If there's 10 episodes, I should be able to get 2 a day this week. So there we go. So yeah, so next Sunday, make sure, do I have anything going next Sunday? No, I don't. Okay, so next Sunday, we'll have another Tann Talks where we're going to be discussing House of Dragons. So make sure that you are following the Plotaholics wherever you have social media. It's the Plotaholics. Not that hard. Katie, where can folks legally and not creepily stalk you here on this intranets?
Oh, easy. Go to katiesalidas.com. That is my portal to everywhere that I am online, to Spilling Ink, to Rising Sign Books, to all my social media. Easy to find me.
There you go, right there. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. And next week, here's hoping I can give you guys a lot more notice as to us going live. So with that being said, she's Katie Salidas. I'm Bryan Tann. And this has been the Plotaholics Presents Tann Talks.